experience.
Yeah.
It's different, Skip. You know, you grow up playing AAU ball. These guys grow up playing for their country. Their AAU is playing for the country team.
And Gabe Vinson, who does play for the Heat, doesn't do a lot for the Heat. He made 6 of 8 threes the other night for Nigeria. If you're going to do that, it's so lethal that it's going to be hard to overcome, and we weren't ready to overcome it.
Yeah, Skip, you make, what, they make 23s? But if you bomb 23s in the Olympics, you're probably going to win. Exhibition, it doesn't matter. You bomb 23s, you're more times than not, you're going to win that ball game.
So I still look at our roster. If you have KD and Damian and Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum and Bam and Zach LaVine and Draymond, I'm getting to be less and less a Draymond fan, but he does all the things that Popovich loves. Look what he did. He had 5 assists, 4 blocks, and a steal. And he scored a grand total of 1.
I look at Draymond in a situation like this. Anything that he gives you offensively is icing. But you want that. You want the rebounds. You want the block shots. You want him to skip because he's mainly the guy that's initiating the offense. And that is the problem. They had Magic. They had John Stockton.
Yeah.
The Lakers had guys that could, I said Lakers. And you look at 08, you look at 2012, they had guys that could get guys easier shots. Everybody's getting that you just mentioned is great at what? Getting their own shot. But they're not great at getting anybody else's shot. Now, Damon is the best at it because Damon mainly runs the point. But Bradley Beal, that's not what Bradley Beal does. Rose does that. That's not what KD does. James Harden, Kyrie does that. That's not what Jason Tatum does. That's what Kyrie did before Kemba Walker or Marcus Smart. So you're asking guys to do things that they don't normally do.
Okay. So in the end, the competition is clearly stiffer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our motivation is clearly less than
it's not like
their usual, right?
Here's the thing. Whoever wins the gold, let's just say for the sake of argument, the Americans don't win the gold medal. Argentina, they get the ticker tape parade. Nigeria, they get the ticker tape parade. The Aussies, they get the ticker tape parade. If we win the gold medal, what we getting? You're supposed to. So it's different. It means different things to them as opposed to us. Because we look at it as we're supposed to. We created the game. How the hell we create the game and then y'all get better than us?
Yep. And they just keep getting better.
They keep getting better. It's different than 92.
And we kind of stay the same, I would say.
You remember when you put this thing together in 92? You had a couple. You had Sabonis. You had Barcelona. You had Project X. There were only like 5 or 6 international guys. Now you got 3 or 4 per team.
Yeah, it wasn't until Argentina had that band of brothers led by Mondo that you saw a team from somewhere else come together and go dominate at an Olympics. That was shocking to me.
Yeah, and Skip, the thing about Olympic basketball, guys play longer. I remember the great Oscar Smith from Brazil. Hell, they were down there Becky playing. So these guys have played together. They start playing together at a younger age. They play together longer, so they're more familiar. This is Kevin Durant first time playing with Jason Tatum. This some of these guys first time ever setting foot on the court together. So it's different.
And Popovich said that after the game, we're just trying to figure each other out. And they just got thrown together. And I'm going to remind everybody, I don't know how this will turn out, but on this team right now are supposed to be Devin Booker and Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday.
At least 2 of the 3 guys can defend.
Okay. You weren't talking about burned out?
Yeah, I was guessing.
What if this does go, which is potential 7 games?
Yes.
Well, then they're just going to turn right around and fly, you know, like you're going to go pack and fly, and you're going to, pretty soon it's coming in, a little over 3 weeks. So you can be ready for that after a grueling playoff run and maybe a 7-game finals.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Bag already packed.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can count on any of those 3. They might try to suck it out the go, and it would certainly help the depth of this team.
It would definitely help wing defenders. Drew Holiday can defend. Middleton can defend. Now, Booker's not much of a defender. He can still a little bit, but that's not his thing. He's another scorer. He's another shooter. I don't think we need more shooters. I think we need guys to defend. I think we need guys to rebound the basketball. But like you said, where are we going to get that from? You know any 6 foot, 7 foot Americans? I don't.
No.
The mere fact that they got Kevin Love on the team lets you know how depleted we are at bigs in America.
Thank you. Why is my depth chart all messed up? Why is Kevin Kaepernick on my team?
We do have one quote-unquote big who plays 7 feet tall. He's not quite 7. He's like 7'7" in length.
Yeah.
And his name is Kevin Bleepin Durant.
Yeah.
And he is the best player on the planet. And he is a clutch closer. And I just think you haven't seen him clutch close yet, because he's just pacing himself for Tokyo and what's going to happen when it starts for real. And I'm sure he's still a little drained from what happened in a 7-game playoff series that went to the bitter end for him and his Nets.
You know how this works, Steve. The other countries are looking around. Oh, they can beat guys.
Maybe.
The Aussies beat them. Nigeria beat them.
Yeah.
They could be half. This might be our year. That's how teams start looking at it. You see what happened, I think the year before in the lead-up here, Argentina had beaten America before they got to the Olympics. So now that gives them the confidence. Yeah, before that, we had lost. 92, 96, 2000, we wiped the floor with everybody. And if you mess around and lost and you lose that era of invincibility, they're like, oh yeah, this our time right now. We get them. And that's it. I don't care who level else wins this. As long as you beat the Americans,
Okay, so I don't want to come off as jingoistic about we just dominate because we're born to dominate, because that's not what's happening here. But Kevin Durant, every time he steps on the floor, is going to be the best player on the floor.
Yes.
And there's going to be huge pressure on him. And he's served our country well many times in the past, so this isn't his first time.
Correct.
And I'm a little surprised he committed to even make this run at his advancing age. But he did, and because he did, I'm going to believe in him, and I'm going to trust that he will bring gold home. So that's my gut feeling is, if I got Kevin Durant, I'm golden.
You know what it was, Skip? What's going on right now? Another country wins the gold medal. It's the equivalent of the U.S. hockey team. What they did in 80 and later. That's the equivalent. There's no way there. There's no way you're supposed to beat the Russians. There's no way that. And I think it'd be either Finland or Sweden in the championship, because that was to get to the gold medal round.
Okay, but remember, we didn't have any pros.
That's what I'm saying.
They had been drafted, but they weren't professional hockey players.
But they still say that they're great.
Now all these other teams have.
Right.
Australia has 6 NBA
Well, they
players.
were sending professionals for the longest time, and we were sending out college kids until they got beaten 88 and sold. That was a David Robinson-led team. And they said, hold on, wait a minute, y'all sending pros, we sending college kids. They said, oh, no more. 92, we got something for you.
Okay, so maybe I'm now speaking on a red, white, and blue part, but I'm willing to bet you 5 cases of Diet Mountain Dew that we win gold.
You bet against America?
Oh yeah, we there.
You like that? You bet against America.
No, I wouldn't.
I'll do anything to get you even.
We go to second quarter.
Some things I would.
You know?
But
No.
like basketball.
Okay.
What about tonight, USA versus Argentina? Bet on that.
Want to play?
Yo, what's up? What's up? What's
Okay,
up?
so you guys can think about that. We got about 2 weeks till Team USA for their first actual game that matters, July 25th. So we got a little time here. Let's not overreact, but it's something to
It's game 7 be the 23rd.
definitely keep an eye on. Keep an eye on. Good stuff for both you guys. Thank you for watching.
Why he didn't go up the field? I use a playmaker them up the field.
Check out more. The best.
Tom was diagnosed 4 years ago with ALS. He took this diagnosis and said, what can I do? Not what can't I do? He has inspired our daughters, our family. He's my hero. My husband being immunocompromised, we haven't left the house much. We're being super cautious. It's been difficult.
Oh, he dropped it.
Thinking about now,
That is so trash.
support, family, and someone that I look up to.
Man, what in the
I
world?
got to visit them every couple of months and stay at their house. They were really the only family we had.
I have a very fond memory of the last time that my nephew Drew came to visit me in San Diego. The best part was the hug that he gave me just before he left. I just got from Drew was awesome.
This is such an amazing thing. It'll be a lasting memory I have of my uncle, and that is really priceless.
It definitely makes me feel closer to Drew. I love it.
I do too.
When we really want something, it's hard to wait. That's why CarMax gives you an instant online offer for your car. The way it should be. CarMax.
Shannon, on a scale of 1 to 10, how sold are you on Giannis as a playoff superstar?
I'm a 10. The way I judge this, Skip, the way I look at it is that once you become a superstar, even if you don't perform at that level in the playoffs, you're still a superstar. We just judge you more harshly. We just critique you with a sterner voice. And that's what we're doing with Giannis, because we saw what he did in the regular season in the process of winning those 2 MVPs. And the numbers that he put up come playoff time didn't match what he did in the regular season. And so that's why we judge him so hard. Skip, for a guy that can't do this, he can't shoot threes. He doesn't have a great mid-range. He's terrible at the free throw line. The guy has 2 regular season MVPs. He's a 3 or 4 time first team All-NBA. He's a defensive player of the year. That's a huge accomplishment for a lot of guys that people say they can't. Okay. So for me, he's a 10.
We're talking about the playoffs. Yeah, consistent, trustable, dependable playoff superstar. You're a 10.
He's like Skip. Granted, if you look at what he did prior to him getting to Toronto, he played unbelievable. You're like, okay, Giannis is doing it. And then he got to Toronto. They did a great job. 2 years ago. They built the wall. We saw what Miami did.
And by the way, Toronto won 4 straight off.
Won 4 straight. But it wasn't an aberration because they turned around and then ended up winning the finals. See, Skip, if we look at a team and they're like, okay, they beat Giannis, and then all of a sudden, they played him out the next round, but that's not what they did. They went on and won it all. So it wasn't like Toronto was a trash team, and they had Kawhi, who many at that time said was the top 2 or top 3 players. So it wasn't like he got beat by a bunch of ragtags. For me, I look at it like this. Giannis is a tremendous player, and it does not matter what he does. If the other 2 guys don't come along, we saw Kevin Durant, Skip. That last game, if he'd got any help from anybody else, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Because Giannis wouldn't even be in the playoff. Kevin Durant would. Just like when he had that historic night, that 49, 17, and 10. It was Jeff Clyde and Jeff Green's 8 or 9 from the 3 that helped get Kevin Durant across the finish line. If I'm not mistaken, Blake Griffin had 17 and 19. He was good. I've seen enough. I know what Giannis sees. Yes, he doesn't have the flair. It's not pretty. See, when guys go forward, we want to be like Kobe. This man when he just let 3 Steph or Dame or Mike glide through the air, coming up on the one side and another, his tongue hanging out. Giannis is never going to be that. His game is never going to be aesthetically pleasing. It's going to be a lot of dunks, a lot of they're going to have hours, dunks. Shoot the 3. Because the dunk is not what it used to be. It's the 3-point shot. It's the acrobatic shot. But I'm a 10 on Giannis as his playoff MVP, okay? A playoff superstar.
Yeah. Okay. I am not going to back down. I'm not going to back off. It's too early yet to say it's over, it's done, because I remind everybody Milwaukee is still down 2 games to 1.
Yeah, they definitely got to win wins to make it.
And Milwaukee, I remind everyone, lost a game 1 by 13 and game 2 by 10. So that was a -3. Then they won game 3. They're highly impressive at home by 20. There's still a -3 in point differential for this series, down 2 games to 1. So this concept amuses me because in my career, I've had this sort of impact or effect where I dig in on a player and maybe I'm over-partially objective, and I have nothing against Giannis. I'm just not buying in yet. And if you get back to Jenny's question, you can scale 1 to 10. I'm like a 4 in trustability as a superstar. So I can trust every night to be a playoff superstar, to carry this team to this championship. He may make me eat all of these words I'm uttering right now.
Jalen Hurts about to get benched.
Ready to say no. I'm not ready to back off and give in to this. Because in my career, sometimes I dig in so hard on a player that I turn them into sympathetic figures. And all I see on media reports that I just get barraged with is, it's time to give Giannis his due. And I feel like a lot of it is aimed at me. Like, it's time to quit slandering this man's name. Well, I'm not slandering his name. I'm just saying, I'm sorry. History would scream at you right now, and you better be careful.
Well, you look at it like, okay, if Giannis is what those regular season MVP says he is, he should be able to go further come playoff time than what he's been able to take Milwaukee.
Okay, so his overall playoff record, as we speak, right now, is 33-28. Well, it doesn't measure up to back-to-back MVPs or Defensive Player of the Year. And again, I don't want to beat this to death, but just being completely, utterly, maybe over harshly objective, I look at his playoff flameouts. In his first 3 playoff runs, he lost, obviously they got knocked out. He lost 4 games in the first year by 21 points a game. He was the average loss. The next time it was by 11 a game. The next time by 10 a game. So they weren't even coming close in their 4 losses to get knocked out. And then came the debacle of a disaster, of a huge disappointment, which was the 4 straight losses to Kawhi's Toronto. And I don't even want to belabor the numbers, but all of his MVP caliber, he won the MVP in the regular season. He couldn't shoot. He couldn't make free throws. He was shooting too many threes and shooting 19% from 3. And you know what happened? They just dared him to shoot 10-foot jump shots, and he just doesn't have that.
Let me ask you a question. If we'd had social media back in the 80s, and people have asked you, where are you on Michael Jordan as a playoff superstar, what would you have said? Because in his first 10 playoff games, he was 1-9. So if they had asked you that question about Jordan, where would you have been?
I could already see it coming because I saw 63 against Larry Bird and company at the Garden.
You can't see this coming. You saw it back-to-back 40-point ball game. There have been very few people that can say, you know what, I've got a 40-piece in the playoffs, let alone back-to-back.
Okay. I had seen Michael Jordan as a true freshman at North Carolina take the shot to win the game, the national championship game. I was sitting on the press row courtside against Georgetown, Patrick Ewing and company. I saw him make that shot. Who's Mike Jordan? Oh, Michael Jordan.
But he wasn't in there. It was this team. That was James Worthy. But I also saw him that
I
game.
don't know. I think they were all looking sideways like he's taking over.
I also saw, if you don't believe this, I saw Purvis Ellison lead LSU, Louisville to the national as a true freshman.
I was sitting courtside in Dallas.
And everybody would have bet.
Yeah.
Everybody would have bet. Purvis Ellison is the next big thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that, Skip. There's a lot of guys that played great in college, and it doesn't translate. Nobody saw Michael Jordan be this.
Okay, but we're 8 years in,
Yes.
to be honest, and we skipped over the bubble trouble that he had because they lost the first 3 to Miami, and he was vulnerable.
Yes.
And then he got hurt, and it didn't really matter because they were already down 0-3.
Correct.
And so he's had a fairly lengthy history in the postseason of not being trustable. And then now he's starting to take off, and I listen. Against Brooklyn,
Look how he throwing the ball, bro.
he wasn't even trying to score. He wasn't trying to move, and I don't know how bad his hamstring was, but the point was, when he didn't go, and when Joe Harris completely disappeared, unless somebody else, like Jeff Green or Blake, whoever else stepped up, there are other candidates too, but it was basically 1-on-5.
And think about what you just said. You just said that Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, and because Joe Harris basically couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, he couldn't do anything. Well, what about the others? With Chris Middleton and with those other guys before when he had Bledsoe and he had those other guys when they weren't doing it, you don't see. My thing is, Skip, you don't hold the other superstars to the same standard when they don't play, when their team doesn't win, that you hold Giannis.
I saw Kevin Durant by himself, single-handedly, carry them in Game 5 and in Game 7.
No, he didn't, Skip.
Yes, he
did. It was Jeff Green 27.
Okay, but he put up virtuoso numbers.
Yes.
Okay, and all the big shots down the stretch he took and made.
Did you not see what he did in Game 2? Who? Giannis against Phoenix.
Game 2, they lost.
They lost. Why?
Okay.
Because Holiday and Middleton did not play well. He gave you 40 and 15.
Yeah, but it never got even close. It never felt like that the Bucks had a chance to win the game. And with Kevin Durant at the controls, with him operating 1-on-5, I just kept thinking, Brooklyn's just going to win this thing because he was taking the game over in ways I don't see Giannis take it over. So they had their 20-point win the other night.
He didn't take the game over?
Okay, no, he did not, because there were 2 runs. I dare you to go look at the 2 runs.
Right.
There's a big run at the end of the first half. And go look and see what happened. In that big run, he scored 2 of the points.
Right.
And then there's a bigger run in the third quarter, 24-6 run that put the game away. Go look at what happened. Drew Holiday scored or assisted on 22 of the 24 points. He did not fuel either of those big runs. He's one of those weird players. He scores a lot of points. He gets a lot of bunnies, like he'll get the offensive rebound, he'll reach over somebody's head and snatch the ball and just lay it back off the glass. And he scored, it was an all-time feat what he pulled off, because he scored 14 field goals within 5 feet of the basket. Nobody in the last 25 years of playoffs or regular season has been able to accomplish that while scoring 30 or more points. All 14 of your field goals come within 5 feet of the basket, and more power to them, because the closer the better. That's the object of the game.
I mean, people make it seem like Shaq was throwing up threes. Okay. Where did Shaq points come from? Okay. And nobody held that against Shaq. No. But we hold Giannis dunking and laying the ball up against him when we didn't do that for other bigs. Shaq was dominant, but Shaq wasn't throwing 17-foot guy looks like a ring.
He was not. But I covered all those big Shaq games in 2001, 02. That run where he was the most dominating offensive force I ever saw. And it was hard to watch because it was football, basketball. It was impossible to referee. And yet, when it was time to get a bucket down the stretch, if you needed to close the game, you just kept dumping it into him because they just couldn't stop him.
Well, that's what they do to Giannis. Let me ask you a question. I didn't hear Chris Paul say we need to build a wall for Middleton. We need to do something special against Holiday. We need to do something special against Bobby Porter. He said we need to build a wall for who? We need to build a fence for who?
Okay.
Skip 42 on 22 attempts in game 2. 41 on 23 attempts in game 3. Jordan needed 79 attempts to get his first 2 back-to-back 40-point game in the NBA Finals. This kid did it in 45 attempts.
I know, because they're point blank. There are a lot of layups and dunks.
Yes! Yeah. When they count the same.
They do count the same. Chris Paul uttered those words after the game the other night because he was ashamed that he knows the playoff history of how Giannis can be stopped.
Yes.
And they ain't doing it.
Correct.
And it's almost like a message to our head coach or our staff like, hey, can't we figure out what everybody else has figured out in the past, the way to take him out of the game?
That's not Giannis. Giannis' job is not to say, okay, they're not building a wall, so let me not go. I will get down here until you keep me out of this restricted area. I'm going down here. I'm going to lay the ball up. Aiton's in foul trouble. Y'all got these small guys trying to guard me. I'm just going to go over your back, get the rebound, put it back, and one. I mean, you think about how many guys have had 40-point games in finals. Okay. Jerry West has 10. Bron has 8. Jordan has 6. Shaq 5. Elgin Baylor down the line for that. Giannis has 2. This is his first finals.
Yep. Okay. And he may have another one. If Phoenix can't figure out how to stop him, he well could have another one. It well could be 2-2 going back to Phoenix.
Exactly.
So I will be the first to admit, it's possible Giannis just isn't my cup of tea because I just don't
like artistic.
Okay, and I listen, when he had that wide open dunk after P.J. Tucker went with Brook Lopez airball, and P.J. Tucker just gutted it out, saved it, and kicked it back, and here comes Giannis charging down the lane, wide open, and dunks it, and here we are, and he goes back up the floor, mean mugging, like, really? I mean, it's just silly, it's like childish to me. It's not how superstars behave in my point of view.
Hey, no, that's good. You gotta get crowded to it.
Okay, mean mug on that. Boy, that was something that Woo! You dunked it wide open. Way to go. And then I've never seen a quote-unquote superstar who hyperventilates early in games and they have to pull him out and sit him down so he can get his breath. You got to regain your breathing pattern. Calm down. Just calm down. Okay, he is so amped. And so there's part of that I appreciate. But when we're talking about superstar, killer will, take over Gene. I just don't see it, so he's not my style of superstar. But he may make me eat all my words if he continues to score 40 a game. He will, if he stays on this pace, let's see what it would take. They've won one. So if he has 3 more games in a row of 40 points, well, he's going to shatter all the records, and he will be the runaway MVP of this series.
Let's get right now. He's averaging 34 and 14.
Where is Jalen Hurts throwing this ball up, bro?
So even if he doesn't get 40, if he just gets you his average, that's pretty damn good. Give me like Frank Sinatra.
Ernestine loves Frank Sinatra.
You know,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, because he didn't have power techniques. He didn't have a whole big group behind him. He just came inside of a school smoking a cigarette and song. As basic as you can get.
He did it his way.
As basic as you can get. But now you look at Michael, you look at Prince, you look at Beyonce. Same thing, still with that. That's He ain't gonna fly through the air. He ain't gonna light no threes up. He's not gonna be acrobatic.
You were the first and the last in the history of the world to compare Giannis to Frank Sinatra.
You get my point. You get my point.
Sort of.
Frank Sinatra.
Somewhere Ernestine is cringing.
Yeah, we need Ernestine to weigh in on that shit. I don't know. Okay, you report back to us, Canada.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here. This is from the show. Check out more of the best.
Chris, scale of 1 to 10, and be honest here, how concerned should we be?
I'm waffling between a 9 and a 10. All right, and that's not to say that Team USA can't win the gold. You know, they got Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum. They may just win it on those guys' talent alone. That said, they should be very concerned because we all know they wanted to come out and make a statement against Australia. They had just lost to Nigeria, a team that a few years ago they beat by 80-something points, and they wanted to come out and make a statement, and instead, they lost for the 4th time in their last 5 international games. That dates back to 2019 when we lost in the World Games. We finished 7th in the World Games. Now, we didn't have KD and Dame Lillard, but Jason Tatum and several other Kemba Walker and other NBA players were there, and we finished 7th. So this is a concern. I think there's a few issues. One, this roster is poorly constructed. There's not a rim protector or shot blocker on the roster. And you saw that last night when Australia just had its way in the paint. Cuts, dives, backdoor cuts. They were at the rim all night. They scored 44 points in the paint. Remember, it's just a 40-minute game. All right, and then look at the roster. The only player on the team who naturally makes plays for others is Draymond Green. Other Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, the other stars are all score-first guys. They can pass, but Draymond's the only one with that real instinct to get others involved and share the basketball. So the roster's poorly constructed. We keep hearing about the continuity and the chemistry, right? Oh, these other teams have been playing together since they were 14, 15 years old. They got a huge advantage. I won't totally eliminate that possibility because I think it is a factor. But it's a factor that's often overstated. And here's why. Look at Nigeria. Shoot, a lot of their dudes grew up in America. Isaiah Udo is from Oklahoma. Gabe Vincent is from California. Precious Akua is from New York City. A lot of these dudes are from America. They haven't been playing together since they were kids. Australia, okay, to some degree, but they also have 7 new players, and they've had 2 or 3 different coaches in the last 3 years. What it boils down largely to is this. I think this is an indictment on the way our American players grow up playing from AAU all the way into the NBA. And that is, and I've talked to people around the league about this, and former players from, a generation ago. Our players grow up playing two-man or one-man basketball. High pick and roll or drive and kick. That's it. Our best players don't know how to move without the basketball. They don't set screens away from the ball. They don't do backdoor cuts for the most part. And if you look at that, that tape we showed before I came on and Jim was speaking and you saw the highlights. Every single one of them, it was just dudes standing around the three-point line. Look at this. Look. Is there any movement? No movement without the ball whatsoever. And so our default in a tough game is to go one-on-one. Or maybe give me a pick and I'll go one, Whereas Australia, when they come together, it's going to be true for a lot of the European countries. When they come together, they grow up playing five-man team basketball. So last night, we weren't in the same stratosphere as far as executions as Australia. They had guys naturally backdoor cutting, moving without the ball, and they picked us apart. And generally speaking, a talented group that plays five-man ball is often going to be a more talented group that plays a lot of one-on-one or two-man basketball. Doesn't happen all the time, but often that's the case. So that's the challenge we're going to be facing in this international play.
Well, I told Skip the same thing. I gave him an 8. I'm very concerned because I don't believe the team is put together correctly. Because you look at it, they say we won't shoot it. Well, you got no rim protecting, you got no rebounding, you got out rebounded by 10 or 12 by Nigeria, you got out rebounded last night by 7 by Australia, and you're talking about you want to focus on shooting, but you're getting outshot. And I think the thing is, Skip, Chris, is that you look at these teams, they don't have one player that's better than Kevin Durant. They don't have one player that's a thing with them. And in America, we grew up, if you're the best player, they don't play all on team ball. We're going to give you the ball, we're going to set picks for you, we're going to get out of your way. Well, that's not how they play. They got to play team basketball. They got to move the ball because they don't have a Kevin Durant. They don't have a Dame Lillard. They don't have a top 5 player. Normally, now if Luka's a different animal. Giannis, if he plays for the Greek, I don't think Giannis plays with the Greek team, but that's a different animal. But for the most part, they have to play this style of ball because they don't have one guy that can just take the game over. And when you look at it, they got no perimeter. They got no perimeter defenders. We've always had, you go back to 92, you had David Robinson, you had Patrick Ewing, you've had Shaq, you've had Elijah Moore, you've had Dwight Howard, you've had Tyson Chandler. You've always had guys that can protect the rim, but you've also had guys that were unselfish and said, you know what, I can score, but everybody can't go get 25 in an Olympic game. Okay, I'm going to D up. Scotty and Mike says, okay, we play D. Kobe said, I'll play D. D-Way said, I'll lock in. LeBron said, I ain't giving up nothing cheap. Right now, we got a bunch of guys that just want to score. Nobody wants to play defense. They got to score in the paint, Skip. 44-24 last night, Australia. Australia, I know they're perimeter guys. Oh, they got Joe Ingles not trying to get grinded. Patty Mills not trying to get grinded. None of these guys are like low post players. And they got outscored the American team by 20 in the paint. If they had Giannis, if they had Joe, I think okay,
that's a lot of backdoor cuts for layups.
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay.
And when you got guys that don't play defense not used to being like that, Skip, they looking around. And laying the ball up in the basket. We're going to talk about Coach Pop getting upset. But Skip, I'm concerned because these teams are no longer at all. Skip, ain't nobody tried to get the Michael Jordan jersey. Ain't nobody tried to get no autographs and get picture taken with Charles Barkley and the Dream Team. They try to kick your butt. And so, yeah, guess what? And they see you in the game. Man, we beat y'all butt. Y'all remember we beat y'all butt in the Olympics? Where your gold medal at? Because that's what I'd be doing if I played on a foreign team and we beat the Americans and we got the gold. Oh, Chris, you couldn't tell me. You couldn't hit me in the butt with a red apple. Hey, where your medal at? Let me see it.
So, my friend Chris Broussard says the sky is falling on Team USA. And my friend across the table says the sky is falling.
It's raining.
No.
It's raining. It ain't falling. It's raining, though.
Okay. It's raining. And I say the sky is blue. As in red, white, and still blue.
Okay.
My concern level is at a 2, TWO2, near the bottom of the scale, because my team, Team USA, still has Kevin Bleepin Durant. He's the best player on the planet. Obviously, he's coming out of what was an accelerated, escalated NBA season unlike any we have ever seen, and he had to play 1-on-5 against the Milwaukee Bucks, and it went to the bitter end, and if his toe hadn't been 1/10 of an inch over the line, he'd still be playing in the finals and probably dominating the finals.
Probably not.
Okay, but the point is, they haven't geared back up just yet. And it is a new team that got thrown together, and Australia is a tough matchup for them this early in the exhibition run-up to the real games. Because, and by the way, Australia doesn't even have Ben Simmons right now. We're going to talk about Ben Simmons in a few minutes here because Shams is reporting that that trade is eating up onto the front burner in Philadelphia and that there is robust interest out there for Ben Simmons. We'll talk about that. But he wasn't even on this team, and it still has 6 NBA players. And they have played a lot of international basketball together because a lot of them, Delly and Patty and Aaron Baines and Ingles, they came up together. And so they can just step on the floor and click because they get each other, they feel each other, and they do play a different brand of basketball. And that, from what I saw, that Jock Landale, he went to St. Mary's, he's 6'11", and he was the player of the year in the WCC when he was at St. Mary's, and then he was just the MVP of their finals at the Australian League, so he can play, and he was dominant. He had 7 rebounds last night, which led both teams. So I get you about rim protection, but Kevin Durant can protect the rim when he decides to. Bam can definitely protect the rim when he decides to, when he needs to. When push comes to literal shove in the Olympic Games, I believe they can protect the rim well enough because they can shoot the lights out. They haven't yet, although I thought Kevin and Dame, if you can go 10 or 20 between them, shouldn't that be good?
I heard. I don't need both of y'all. I said okay.
That's the problem. And again, I just don't think they've committed yet because to me, rebounding is mostly about want to.
Right.
It's just, do you want it? Do you want the ball worse than they want the ball? And last night, Joe Ingles said after the game, we walked in tonight thinking we would win this game. Well, it meant a lot more
Well,
than
I wish you'd walked into the Clippers game thinking they were going to win that game.
Because you lost a bunch of cases.
Yeah, you're right. He talking all big and bad. Now Chris talking about we walked in. But also, I think, Chris, before you go, is that if you look at the way they play international ball, they physical. They play like 80s and 90s stuff. They don't let you do that flopping. I see the Americans looking around like, man, that's a foul. And the referee like, you better play on, you better get back on defense because we ain't calling the foul.
Okay, got it. They'll figure this out. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Don't you think, you said it meant more to Australia than us. You don't think Team USA, after being embarrassed by Nigeria, was like, oh, look, let's come back and set the world in order.
Yes.
Let's show everybody that was just some fluke, and they couldn't do it.
Okay, Chris, what if they weren't really embarrassed by Nigeria? What happened?
Well, that's even more of a problem.
Then shame on them.
Yes.
How could they not be?
Did that count toward gold? No.
I mean, Byron Scott called it the worst upset in the history of basketball. I mean, that was embarrassing. They should be embarrassed. And look, I'm not saying they can't win it. Like I said, they got all the talent. You know, they got Kevin Durant. But, Skip, let's not act like just having Kevin Durant means you're going to win.
So are you two both insinuating that if LeBron James were part of this team, this wouldn't be happening?
We had LeBron and Kawhi. If we had Kawhi to walk down on the edge, you know, Kawhi was playing down on the edge. Let me tell you how concerned Greg Popovich